Welcome back to MobilityWOD. We're going to answer a couple viewers' questions today, talk a little bit about back, shoulder, and front of the hip. I'm going to show you guys some things. A couple special guests today. We've got Dan from the San Jose Police Department. And then also, you might recognize this guy as old guard, old school. He's from original Santa Cruz box, and now he's at CrossFit Santa Cruz West. Yes, sir. And we're glad to have these guys. They were up here training with us today, and we thought we'd throw them into the meat grinder. The first thing we're going to talk about today is kind of continuing back recovery, getting ready for a huge effort this weekend. So I'm training hard. I got Fight Gone Bad coming up. I'm going to show you guys something off the bat. So I'm going to hand this over to my colleague here. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys that we're going to take these balls that we've got taped together, and we're actually going to put them right above the sacrum here, and we're going to try to get the balls right centered over the low back. The spinous process will rest right in the middle of the ball here. What's going to happen is that my weight is going to push either point of the ball almost on the little facet joint. Those little facet joints guide weight bear, but they also create the space through which these spinal nerves exit. So what I'm going to try to do is get my back on there, and then I'm just going to get a little motion back here and restore the spinal motion at these segments. So I'll show you what this looks like. All right, so these guys are going to jump on their backs, feet up on the box. Each one grab one of these sets of taped balls. They put their foot back up, go ahead and scoot in so you're kind of 90-90. And then you'll notice that Jay's got the balls on his low back here. And what's happening, he's just going to put it right in those facets. And he's flexed enough that he doesn't drop into too much extension. So I'm going to bring his box a little bit closer so that his back doesn't kind of overextend. And then these guys are just going to rock their knees side to side a little bit. You guys feeling that low back? They just did a pretty heavy low back workout. You see the grimace of pain? Don't make that face. That is a private face. And then just working up and down is just about restoring some motion in that low lumbar once it's been hot. One of the things that happens is just those little segments tend to get stiff, and all we're doing with the ball is just going to restore some motion here. Imagine a really expensive $2 physical therapist pushing on your low back. But it's not as effective, but it'll certainly work, okay? And that's what they're doing, and they just work up and down. The key is that they're in a little bit of flexion so they don't overextend over the balls. That's why the box is up. That also puts their psoas on slack. This is also a great position to ice your low back if you're feeling hot. Cool? All right, second piece. Hop on up, gentlemen. Is that we're going to talk a little bit about the Sumo deadlift high pull today. We want you guys to start thinking, I want you to start thinking about CrossFit as the best, most thorough examination of human movement on the planet. There's some confusion about the Sumo deadlift high pull, and it's accurate but not accurate. And let me show what I'm talking about. When I'm in a good Sumo deadlift high pull position, go ahead and just finish for me. You'll notice that Jay's shoulders are well back in the socket. He's tucked back. He's got a little grip here, space. If he wants to make it closer, he can do that. But he naturally adopted a position that still allows for this upright pulling. The key is, I don't know if you can see this, but his shoulder is back in the socket here. The same thing with Dan. Go ahead and let your shoulders roll forward, boys. So finish with the shoulder in this position. This is an impingement maker. So when I see people sumo deadlift high pulling and they end up with this shoulder forward position, I know that I'm going to get a hot shoulder here, or potentially because of the lack of missing internal rotation that happens where the arm comes forward, and because I can't keep the shoulder back, the arm sneaks forward into that position. I've found out something about my athletes. So if I'm seeing this when shoulder is back, this tells me that I have a healthy, normal shoulder that can easily handle a few reps of this for a fight combat. If you cannot handle a few reps of this, something is wrong with your shoulder. Remember that the only mechanical kind of tell that your body has, that your biomechanics are off, is this pain. So if your shoulder's hurt in this position, don't be that guy in that position. What can you do? Well, you can pull a little bit lower, pull middle body, pull chest. This allows you to keep the shoulders back. But also what can you do? Could you move your hands wider? Oh, hey, now you can adopt a much further back shoulder position. So it's an easy sub. So if you feel like you can't pull that as high because your shoulders come forward, assuming shoulder forward, target, that bad position forward, that's hot impingement. This, by the way, is not a sumo deadlift high pull. This is a internally rotated, demented impingement pull, and that's not what we're ever advocating. So if your shoulders roll forward, don't do that, all right? So keep those shoulders back and wide, hands wider if you need to. Otherwise, go ahead and do normal close grip and pull. And if he finishes in that position, shoulders back, there's no problem, okay? That makes a difference. So, real quick, guys, lay down on the ground for me, would you? Feet out straight in front of you, sit tall. And go arms straight up above your head, thighs together, point your toes. What I want to show you is the interaction between lower extremity and upper extremity. Go ahead and get your backs totally flat and straight for me. Right? And you can see that Dan here is rounding through his low back. It's affecting his position, so he's lost. So go ahead and keep your back as straight as possible for me. Can you do that? How can you straighten it? Don't hold your hand there, cheater. Hands apart. And you'll see that he's got arms are bent. His shoulders are no longer in an awesome position, right? Jay is working on that same position too. He's working really hard. His quads are flexing. He's trying to be in this tight position. What I want to show you is that when we stand back up again, when we see shoulders come forward, just imagine the internal rotated position, right? Oftentimes, go ahead and get down to a squat position for me, guys. In this position, if I don't have an upright torso because I'm lacking good flexibility, where do my shoulders naturally go as I start to pull? They're going to pull forward. And what ends up happening is I arrive in that, go ahead and do it somewhat high pull for me. I arrive in an internally rotated position because of my lower flexibility. So don't just hang all of this on the shoulder. We're always thinking of the athlete as a system, okay? So making sure that if your shoulders are rolling forward, are they starting, go ahead and go wide stance. Are they starting because in that bottom position, go ahead and sumo, that your shoulder has already gotten forward. And if you start in that shoulder forward position with not having the shoulder back, chances are you're going to arrive with that shoulder in an internally rotated position. But down at the bottom, we want that shoulder back, chest is up and tall. That's the advantage. I get the shoulder on the shelf and then I can pull and end up in a good shoulder position. Does that make sense? Great. So today's WOD. We're going to do one thing for the lower extremity. So let's go ahead and kick you guys up on the box doing the jump out stretch for me. This is to be done at the end of the workout. They're going to hook the foot, jump out as far as they can, keep jumping out. Now look, if they just descend, you see how they overextend? So stand back up tall. Belly is tight in a neutral position. Then go ahead and load, guys, straight up and down. Verticalize that shin for me. Don't let that shin come forward. Good. Sinking as far as you can. Your goal is to collect 2 minutes each side. You'll notice that they have a little bit different position. Jay has a little bit different position than Dan. That's fine. Work out that business. Squeeze that butt in the back. If your butt's not on, you're not in a good position. Hanging out, tearing the front here. It's kind of an isometric shutdown piece, and will get you strong at the end range so you're less likely to actually tear a hip flexor when it matters, okay? So we're going to do 2 minutes each side. That's a 4-minute piece, and then we're going to come back up and work on some internal rotation. And we're going to come back today with the sink hold. So let's go ahead and get you guys arms behind your back up on the bar. Super coach and super cop. Now look, if we don't do anything and we just kind of take a snapshot in that extension position, shoulders are easy to come forward. So we want to keep rib cage in and down, shoulders squeezed back tight. And can you go ahead and move your hands closer together? Move your hands closer together. Get them tight, get them tight, get them tight. Squeeze your shoulders. Look, we're getting a big stretch through the chest. Anything that's tight through here. Remember, if this is hurting your elbows, try to flip your thumb up on the other side, and that can potentially unload you or change your grip. So right now, Jay is doing a lot of compensating through his wrist, so we're going to get him to grab the bar, and that helps him to protect, so his elbow doesn't feel as hot. And then let's lower down. Belly tight, and you'll notice that shoulder wants to creep forward. They're working hard to keep it in the back of the socket. Mobilizing the front of the shoulder will help with that sumo deadlift high pull position. So they can stand back up, squeeze the hands closer together. We need space in the front of that capsule to let this happen, and then go ahead and drop back down. And let's do 2 minutes on each side. It's a short 8-minute workday. Thank you, gentlemen. Old school, you might recognize him from every CrossFit video and every CrossFit certification back in the day. And then this is the new school super cop badness. So stop that guy, you see him on the street, and get a sticker from him. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.